Hey gaming fans, so today I'm going to be looking at the Star Wars customizable card game. It's interesting how with card games, so sometimes they call them CCGs, which, customable card game or collectible card game, and sometimes they call them TCGs, trading card games. But anyways, this one I was just kind of looking at this I've played this game a little bit with my friend a few times, and I got into buying the cards because at one point these cards used to be available. They don't make this anymore. There's still a community of people that actually do play this game. In fact, they've kind of refined all the rules, and they're making like their own cards that you can actually print off and cut out and stuff. And accumulate. That's the word I'm looking for. A bunch of these cards and was able to build some decks. But anyways, yeah, so this is made by Decipher Inc., Parker Brothers, which is interesting. It wasn't one of the big card game manufacturers of the day. You see there's the back here. This was like a two-player starter set. Much like every other card game, this one was sold with, they had like starter decks, essentially, which was like a deck of just random cards. There was... this was before the time of structure decks, really. I don't think they made any pre-constructed decks for this game. But they did do a lot of, booster packs, obviously. And this was like a two-player starter introductory set. And I remember buying this one, and I think they had one that was like a white box. I probably have it on my shelf somewhere. And they made a bunch of different ones. And this was to try and introduce you to how to play the game. And obviously at that time, I was mainly into Magic the Gathering. And I was exploring other card games to get into. This was before the time of Yu-Gi-Oh! And some of the other card games like Pokemon. So I was looking for other card games to try and get into. And Star Wars was a movie franchise at the time I wasn't really that big into. I have to admit, I saw the movie. I wasn't too into it, but then when I started playing the card game, I started getting into it a little bit more, which is interesting. Now, the thing about this is you have two different card backs, which, some card games do this and some card games don't. But it makes sense in this world. Like, you have this whole storyline, the Star Wars storyline, and, obviously you got the dark side, and you got the, so basically you're deciding if you want to play the Rebels or if you want to play the Imperial. And so I keep thinking of Spaceballs, you're doing the upside of the Schwartz or the downside of the Schwartz. But anyways, yeah, this game plays pretty interesting. It almost plays like a collectible card game or a card game / board game, because you have your characters. So like this guy, he's a rebel trooper. It's been a while since I've played this, so probably my rules knowledge is a little bit leaning towards I don't remember. But there's like a cost associated. You got your powers and your abilities, and you gotta obviously use the Force in this, which is cool. Like you generate Force by playing locations. So you got this one here, which is like Tatooine, the Dune Sea. And it gives you a little lightsaber thing in the corner there. So when you have locations, you generate what the lightsaber is there on your side each turn. And you basically accumulate this stuff. And then when you play cards, it kind of rotates from this pile over to this pile and then back into your life force. So it's kind of an interesting game in that sense. But there's a lot of like this is all like done with screenshots of the movie, which is also interesting. Some CCGs or collectible card games or whatever you want to call them, they have to have like all original art, whereas this one just used a lot of the movie screenshots. So you can see, and because of the lore of the movie, they're able to create abilities and effects that kind of mimic the characters of how they were in the movie. So there's another one, Tatooine. Mos Eisley. This one generates 2, and each turn you generate sort of like if you play Magic the Gathering, sort of like mana. Each card generates a number, and then you kind of add it to your Force pile, and then you can go and battle. There's, of course, this is Luke Skywalker, Rebel Guard. There's a lot of odd characters in here that, you know, they were kind of in the movie, but nobody really knows who they were. Kind of like when the toys came out, they had to create all these toys of Star Wars characters that nobody knew who they were because they were in the movie but didn't really have a speaking part and nobody really knew their name. This is interesting. It's just an automated weapon. It's the guy's feet there. And so you got these like items here that you can attach to your characters. This is, they had interrupts, which if you've played Magic the Gathering, you'll know what that means. You know, it's something that they can, you know, play. All different kinds of effects. It's a really interesting game if you want to get into it. And what's interesting is because there's still a player kind of database of cards and people still into this game, you can just find them on a website and download the card or print the card off, which I ended up doing. I mean, this is just a starter set. In fact, trying to play these decks is really painful. They didn't balance them out very well. There's a lot of cards that are almost useless, that don't do much. But there are some that are kind of in. So this says use 2 force to deploy any warrior. At any time you may peek at the top card of your reserve deck and use 1 force. You may choose to move that card to the top of your force pile. So you got this force pile which you generate cards in, and then when you spend those force cards, it goes back into the deck. It's kind of a neat concept of the way they play this game. It's been a while, but you know, I'd have to really go and refresh my knowledge of the game. So that was the Rebel deck there, and then you got the Imperial. Obviously, you got Darth Vader, and of course, you know, this is a starter set, so they didn't give you all the expensive cards. Like this Vader is much weaker than the one that's actually really good. There's another one, I think his name is just Darth Vader. This one just says Vader. You know, he still has the same kind of power and ability, but he's obviously a lot more stronger. But he, you know, this came in the starter set, whereas the other one you have to pull it in a booster pack, and you know the deal. You know, it's rare, it's hard to find, or it's expensive. If you want to go online and try and buy one, you're probably gonna have to spend some good money. And the locations, they just kind of stack up to each other. You like lay your locations down like this, so you'll have a whole board full of locations, and you literally play your characters to the locations, and you use things like this is more of like an interrupt, but you can actually get spaceships that can fly from one location to another, and you can get planet cards. They're just like a planet that actually sits at the end of all of those line of locations. So basically you could say this is Endor or whatever, and you could use your, you know, depending on what it is, it could be an Imperial fighter, could be an X-Wing, could be whatever, and it'll tell you how it can travel. There's vehicles you can summon to the field. It's a kind of an interesting game. I mean, there's a lot that goes on in this game. There's a lot, like this is literally just an introductory set, which I picked up, like I said, at Walmart. And I just thought it would be fun to just kind of show it off because, you know, this game does exist. It's kind of, you know, to get the older cards, to get these cards, they're not easy to come by nowadays. You know, other than just say going on eBay or something and trying to buy them. But I would suggest if you wanted to, if you're like a Star Wars fan, if you're into CCGs, this is a good one. This game gets entertaining. The games are kind of long too. I remember playing a few games, and it does take a long time because by the time you lay down all your locations, you start moving your characters. The characters can move from location to location. You can only battle characters that are at the same location, and you know you're trying to basically beat your opponent. So really cool game, really interesting. I just thought I would show this one off because it's one that I don't think I've talked about on this channel in a while, and you know, it's kind of fun. I just remember buying this at Walmart when I saw them. I'm like, Star Wars, that's cool. I ended up buying some other, there's like a longer one with it came with booster packs, and you know, they gave it a shot. And of course, after this game was finished, There was a bunch of other Star Wars games that came out. There was a Young Jedi one. There was another Star Wars one where they tried to like refine the rules and they tried to make it better, which actually I think they made it worse. And then there was like a bunch of them. I remember every once in a while seeing a Star Wars CCG. And I believe there's also a Star Wars Living card game, which is one where you just buy all the cards. There's no collecting. It's just you buy all the cards and then you play it like that. Like you build the deck and then you play. So yeah, it's fun. Anyways, I just thought I'd show this off. This is a neat old piece of card gaming history that, you know, it's kind of fun. Anyways, let me know what you think. Have you played this game? Throw some comments down below. Hope you subscribe, and we'll talk to you later.